Hello and welcome to the Juggling podcast. My name is Luke Burridge, and joining me today, like normal, is Juliana. Say hello, Juliana.
Hello, everyone.
And I want to just start off this podcast like we normally do, saying a big thank you to our Patreon supporters, because this is the podcast that we publish on Patreon. And It started out as an exclusive bonus for everyone on Patreon, for everyone who pays us money on Patreon.
Yeah.
And now I just put it open for everyone just because, people get the idea.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for everyone supporting us, and I'll do it by decreasing levels of the tiers. So at the clean finish tier is Marshall, Savitt, and Sid, and qualified juggle is Matt and Chris and Danny and Flo and Hendrik and Joel and Kathy and Callie, and that's it. Oh, and Bethany. And then the next level is the 5up 360 level. So thank you very much to Meryl and the Mysterious Mark and Jeremy and Yuli and Juliana and Keith and Mark and Mikael and Mike. Thank you very much. Neon Juggler. Who else is this? Statist, Rafa, Zach. Oh, no. And then below that is everyone at the $1 a month Cascade level, or some people have paid a few more than $1. Zach, Pierre, Greg, Helga, Catherines, and others. Thank you very much to everyone down at that level.
Thank you, guys.
And I just want to say the different levels, because you get thanked at different levels. You get your name mentioned in podcast. Your at the end of videos when I publish vlogs and other things, your name is mentioned in big text if you pay more money at that level.
Right.
And also if you pay at a high enough level, which is $25 a month, you get to suggest a topic.
Ooh.
And Marshall did so.
Oh, what's the topic?
Well, first of all, he says, hey, how about maybe you cover the juggling in the Olympics again? I said, he said, maybe cover juggling in the Olympics. And I said, we've already done a long podcast about that. I said, yeah, but maybe everything's going to change after the summer.
Well, let's see.
And the WJF has been in Paris. And I said, no, it's not going to change. The WJF it's now WJF 20. It's happening in Paris.
Yes.
It says here here they've got $12,510 worth of money in prize money.
Not bad.
No, that's a lot of money. For a juggling competition. That's a huge amount of money. And they're going to film it and put it on TV. And I predict absolutely nothing is going to change in the status of juggling at the Olympics.
They are not in the Olympics.
No, they're not in the Olympics. It even says here, we've been invited.
I tried to find them literally anywhere on the Olympic adjacent website.
No, isn't.
It's nothing there.
The World Juggling Federation has been invited by the Paris Olympics Committee to showcase our sport as part of their pre-games events in Paris. We intend to produce this into a program for ESPN that will air on August 2nd, 2024. So that's the plan. But this is all happening on June the 30th, the main event, the ultimate overall championship, and there's free entrance to that if you want to go in and watch it on June 30th.
Okay.
I just looked at when do the Olympics start? 26th of July to the 11th of August.
Yeah.
So it's like a month before the Olympics. I mean, it does say on the website that it's in the build-up. Now, I don't want to dunk on the WJF, but I will dunk on them a little bit. That 20 years after the first WJF, 2004, this is now, WJF 20.
Yeah.
And it's, and I don't know. I just find it a bit embarrassing how little impact it has on the world and how little influence it has and how few people turn up and take part.
Well, let's see. Maybe it's going to change completely.
Well, no, I was talking to some people I was like, oh, you're going to be around in Paris. Are you going to go? And they're like, yeah, but if I go and I don't want to pay to juggle, like you've got to pay like $200 if you want to juggle.
Oh.
Or you can get like non-juggling. Anyway, I don't know. It was just what people said. So, of course, if you're in Paris and you're a juggler, you're like, yeah, let's go along and watch or something. But it's never been a world, and it's never been a federation. It's always been a federation of one guy, and it's never to do with the world, and it's embarrassing.
Just to make sure I understand, is it a juggling convention or a competition?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I honestly, and I'm not going to go into it because it's such a minor kind of thing, that like the more people take part in the volley club tournament, more people take part in the jolly stick tournament, more people take part in the Diablo battle every year at the EJC than the WJF competition. More people take part in the numbers juggling competitions at the IJA and BJC. More people take part in the Cup of the Day. It's everything the wrong way around. That the only way to make people take part is to give them or say you can win money.
You can win money here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that drawing people in?
I don't know. So let's go on to Marshall then suggested a second topic. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a long passage, but he says the topic, bounties for juggling tricks. Are they good, neutral, or bad for juggling, both short term and long term? So the idea is sort of like, suppose someone announces a $2,500 bounty to the first person who qualifies 7 club back crosses.
Okay.
And other things like that. And what if the money was greater money or smaller money, or maybe if it's for sustained 5 club juggling, how about $10,000 per minute with a minimum of 5 minutes? So like people really concentrate on that kind of stuff.
So that's 5 minutes,
$50,000.
$50,000.
If you get to 5 minutes with 5 clubs, 5 minutes of 7 club juggling. Again, these are just examples off the top of Marshall's head. So here we go. I want to discuss the idea of not just trick bounties, which I quite like the idea of. I also want to discuss like alternative funding for non-performing jugglers.
Okay.
Like there are ways that people make money performing on stage.
Yeah.
Great. You can also, I guess, do workshops. And
busking.
Busking, yeah. Well, that's kind of performing. So, so what if you're not a performer and you don't want to teach people to juggle?
Yeah.
How can you earn money? I don't want you to throw out suggestions now.
Yeah.
Keep them in mind because I just want to make a very clear point in all of this.
Okay.
Both me and Juliana dislike that the world revolves around money so much.
Yeah.
That people have to work for money and that people's worth is tied up to money. We would love to do a podcast, or we would love to do this podcast in a fantasy world where everyone lives in a utopia where nobody has to work for a living and everyone's free to do art for whatever reason they want. Oh, they just want to do it. Maybe there's basic universal income and all that kind of stuff. We'd love to live in that world, but we don't.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is have like a reality-based conversation here, grounded in no matter how we disagree with it or would love it to change in our current, capitalist society where people, there is value in money and how much money someone makes for doing something it suggests the amount of worth that either they actually provide to society or other people perceive that they provide to society or in the case of Wall Street, they're the ones who make the decisions of how much money people make, and they decide that they're going to pay themselves a lot of money, which again is one of those things where you go, wait a second, you're a hedge fund manager. How much? Like, why do you deserve billions and billions of dollars? And it's like, well, I'm making this money. It's like, no, you decided. So yes, we've got to steer clear of all of those kind of things because it isn't fair that always the top stars, like the top movie people, make. They're the ones who make, millions and millions of dollars. And you're like, well, you just acted in a movie. It's like, no, but society decided that that's okay to spend, to give.
That includes the football players. And also, I think what's going to trickle through is some of my personal experiences with a clash of a thing you like and the money earning aspect and what influence it has on that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so bounties?
Well, let's start off with this thing. So maybe someone has got a lot of money, and the idea is like how can they influence the world of juggling to like steer technical juggling to be able to see what they want. Okay. Now, you don't need to put money on this. Yeah. You just need to calibrate what you want to see in a fun way.
I mean, people are already doing it.
Yeah. So David Kane or Scott Kane, I can never remember which one because they both write articles for the e-juggle. They're like, they've done this dream tricks thing. So here are some tricks that I've only ever seen pictures of in history books. Yeah. I want somebody to be able to do this. Or maybe the next thing. So like put 5 clubs on your foot and kick up into 5 clubs. I think that was one of them.
Oh, wow. That sounds hard.
There was another one which was the picture of the person juggling 3 knives in one hand and 3 balls.
I remember you did that.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. So the idea is that then you send the videos in, you tag it on Instagram, and then he collects them together. Dream tricks. No money needed to change hands. All you need is someone who has esteem in the juggling world or who is highly regarded in the juggling world to say, here's some tricks that I want to do. And if in of itself, it's a fun challenge for people to try out these tricks. Yeah. They'll just try it out because it turns out jugglers don't do what they want to do because they're earning money from it. It's because intrinsically the juggling, like failing at something 1,000 times before you get it for the first time.
Them work.
It's just what people want to do.
Yeah.
So I went out there and I juggled 3 balls in one hand and 3 knives in the other hand, and I think I qualified it. I think it was like 12 catches in total.
And you hurt yourself a few times.
No, not with it. It was with the seven knives that I hurt myself with.
Yeah.
So I did all of that.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So, but if you actually want people to dedicate a lot of their life to it, a single trick bounty, you know, with like this amount of money sitting in an account somewhere, you know, in, what do they call it? In escrow? I don't even know what it's called, but you know, whatever the thing is where you say,
you dedicate a bank account only for that purpose, and it needs to
and the
be
money is sitting in there, and whoever does it, some lawyers will decide, yes, this has been done, the evidence is correct, this hasn't been chat GPT'd or DALI'd into existence, let's go for it, you know.
Okay. I'm just trying to come up with the group of people who would want to do that.
What? Who would want to do the juggling?
Who would want to literally dedicate their lives of earning this kind of competition kind of style, and what this brings to my mind.
Well, I think there are some really good analogues for this outside of the art world and outside of the juggling world.
Okay.
So, well, certainly outside of the juggling world, because it doesn't exist in the juggling world.
Obviously.
But let's talk about one of my favorite topics, which is space and rocketry and all that kind of stuff. It used to be that NASA, when they wanted a rocket, they would say, build me a rocket, and they would go, okay, give us this amount of money.
Yeah.
So Boeing would say, hey, for this SLS, give us this amount of money, and if it costs more than that, you've got to give us that money.
Yeah.
And if it costs even more than that and there's delays, you've just got to keep giving us money.
Yeah.
So what NASA's done is, for the commercial launch programs, they've switched over, or they currently switching over as much as possible, to a commercial thing where they will award an amount of money for each milestone that a company gets to. So they'll have like, okay, here's a grant, and you have to do a study to show that your rocket engines are going to work. Great. Yeah. And they show NASA, hey, the rocket engines are going to work, but they already know the full plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as they tick off milestones, what happens is that, they tick off the milestone. Oh, tick off this, tick off this, tick off this. And at the end, they got the whole money, but they don't have to wait until the very end to get all the money. They get money along the way. For their progress. So like I was saying before, like if someone manages to do, like, again, if you go 7 club back crosses, you're like, okay, whoever gets to the qualify, whoever gets 14 catches first gets this prize.
Yeah.
But anybody who shows progress from, 7 to 8 catches, like you've done 7 behind the back, now do 8. Anybody who does that gets $500.
Yes, because what the issue the main thing that comes to my mind is that there is one bounty for one specific trick. Yeah. And let's say there are 5 people interested in reaching that.
Yes.
So, and there's still only one person who's going to get it, right?
Right, yeah.
So that means if you think further ahead of just this one time or whatever, and you want actually to establish that as a thing people are doing.
That more than one person is doing.
Yeah. So that means, you have 5 people. Let's say you have 5 people. One person gets the bounty. Then they move on to the next thing. Yeah. And in the ideal world, everybody would get it sometime.
Yeah. But this is the thing.
What's happening, is it?
The bounty, and this is what I say coming up to NASA, when NASA says, hey, we want some human-rated spaceflight stuff, they picked 2 people or 2 companies. Yeah. Boeing and SpaceX, and they said, right, you two are now in a race, or not in a race. If you complete the task, you will get the money. Okay. So there was a selection process. Yeah. So this is what I would say for this kind of stuff, to stop people putting in all the time. I would say, if I'm designing a competition with a trick bounty, I would say anyone who can show me 6 catch. No, we're talking about 14 catches of 7 club back crosses. Anyone who can show me whatever the current world record is, which is, I guess, 9, maybe. Yeah. 9 catches. You get to apply to be in this race. Yeah. And they can say, we'll have up to 5 people. And every one of those 5 people will get money in the end. Yeah. But the money will decrease over time.
You get like a bonus at the end or something.
So you get it. If you do it first, you get the, what does he say here? $2,500. If you do it second, $2,000. Third, $1,500. So it decreases over time. Yeah. Yeah. So just because you're like, there's no point in me doing that because Takahiro, what's his name? Masahiro Takahashi. Yeah. He's definitely going to win that, because nobody else is really working on 7 club back crosses in the same way. Yeah. But if if you just go, well, there's no point anyone else doing that. So all you're doing is like telling this one guy, do you want $2,500? Because it's not worth anybody else doing it.
Because they are everybody else would just literally be at the beginning would be starting on a different level.
Yeah.
Like, and this is why I think this can only be made into a system if you actually want it to work.
Yeah.
It can only be like a grant system that everybody gets a grant and then you can work on it.
Well, grants is a bit different, which I want to go on to a bit.
And put in the time, because I think what the issue with these kind of one specific outcome giving you money style thing is that people are investing time, energy, resources, and literally they're living time to achieve that.
Right.
And so you are never just really paying for this 1 second of the one thing that they achieve.
No,
you're always paying for the thing that...
Yeah, like here's money for disrupting your entire juggling journey on life at the moment.
Exactly. So that's what you're being reimbursed for the time spent and everything around it. And so this
but I don't want... Here's the thing, you can't talk about how much time something takes. Because people get paid a lot of money for doing one thing which doesn't take very much time.
No, but they have literally spent their time to learn and
No, it doesn't matter.
There.
That's what I'm saying. It can't be based on how much time that you put in, because it means that the person who is worst puts in more time. So you're actually then saying their time is worth less.
Yeah.
But that's not true. We can't take how much time it takes to someone to do it into how much money we give them.
Right.
We can't do it about per hour and then go, oh, well, the other stuff like that, it can't be how it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I want to say is, though, in this kind of thing, if you're having a single trick bounty, I would say it has to be a reasonable goal, and I think 14 catches of 7 club back crosses is a reasonable goal for a 10-year outlook. Say if we want this to happen in the next 10 years, I reckon there's maybe 3 or 4 jugglers in the world who are at the level now who could work on it to get there, maybe.
Plus the ones who are not even literally born yet. I would say.
No. I mean, I'm talking about again.
But,
let's base it in reality right now for this.
Yeah,
I think putting money on this probably won't make somebody get 7 club back crosses for 14 catches earlier than otherwise. It sounds like a good idea. And even in its best case scenario, which means it's open to more people, there's milestone awards along the way. So for each extra catch, we'll just give you a bit more money for a bit more like that.
Yeah.
I honestly think that people will work on that trick when they feel they're ready to work on that trick, because it's like the most prestigious trick.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the DB97531 from Spencer Androli with clubs and with a qualifying, and it's cool like that. Like, he didn't have to be paid to do that.
Yeah.
It's just the biggest trick of the year.
Yeah.
Like, and if you do like the 7 club 5-up double pirouette back into a qualifying juggle, you know, these top jugglers will work on that next big trick and dedicate the time to it, just because it's the next big trick. But they won't work on each other's tricks, because it's sort of like, all right, Spencer was the first to do that, so now the Prestige isn't doing that trick, it's doing a different trick. You know, Takahashi did this trick, which means that, like, so they each pick their individual pursuits. And I think using money to motivate some people to spend time on something which they wouldn't otherwise spend time on, it does, it's sort of like the rivalry was there. And we did a whole podcast last year about, you know, friendly rivalries. It's like making what is currently friendly rivalries for you know, I want to be, you know, the first person to get here. I want to be the youngest person to get here. I want to do it with a qualified juggle after, whatever the big trick is. It just turns a friendly rivalry into like a slightly less friendly rivalry. But then not even less friendly, I'm just saying it's putting other motivations on something which I don't think is needed.
Yes.
So the only way to do it is to give money to everyone who gets there.
Exactly. So that's the kind of what I'm trying to figure out is what are you achieving with this bounty, like on one trick?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? What do you want to make sure people are getting there, which you won't need the money for, because people will figure this out anyway. Do you want to give people you don't need to give this as an incentive because people are already doing it. Do you want to give this as a well done for getting there? I just find it a really hard time for me to
that's what I'm saying.
understand.
That's why I'm talking through these issues. Yeah. And I'm trying to find real-world solutions to them.
So I think a real-world solution for me, what comes up in my brain, is like the tennis tournaments.
Yeah.
Like you have a system like where there's a big base of tennis players.
Yeah.
Some people are just doing it as a hobby. Some people are getting better and then trying to get into like the cycle of professional tennis players. They are getting paid.
Yeah, but that's not a bounty. That's nothing.
No, that's not a bounty. But the bounty is then winning a Grand Slam. That's like a bounty.
The tennis does have bounties. They used to do this with the US series. So if you went over to the US and you won I think there was this thing where if you win Cincinnati and Toronto or Montreal and the US Open, there's like a special bonus for winning. Like you still won those tournaments and you get the prize money. Yeah. But if you win it all the way, if you do win it all without losing, there's like an extra $1 million on the top. Yeah. Same with the end of year finals. You can win the tournament, but if you lose one of your round robin matches, you can still go on to win. But if you do a clean sweep, there's like an extra prize for doing the clean sweep. Yeah. So that kind of thing. But what I want to do is kind of steer it away. Want to steer away from live sports, because live sports is live entertainment. Mm-hmm. And those people really are being paid to support a live entertainment product. Yes. Which is the Grand Slams generally. Yes. And all of the other tournaments around there, people paying tickets to do. So that's much more akin to a show where people pay to watch. In some ways. Exactly.
But this is why I find this so appealing to switch around, because if you would, tennis is a sportive activity, which is just about playing the tennis, right?
No, it isn't about playing the tennis.
No. But the sport is you play tennis,
yeah,
right?
But that's not where the money is.
No, let me just finish my point. Okay. Now, do you remember when we in Tres Cantos, where you played the tennis theater thing?
Oh, yeah.
So that would be taking the sportive activity of what playing tennis is, and switching it into a different sort of performing arts kind of thing, and now try to model that into make this attractive for other people to do. It is really hard to take one thing out of its context, and in this case juggling as a performing art, and make it artificially interesting and appealing for people to pursue this as a sport, and in this case the pure technical.
Yeah, but people are doing it anyway.
Exactly.
No, I don't think there is a single person who, if you told them there's $2,500 for them to work on a technical thing, would be interested. Like that wouldn't interest them.
Okay.
I think it's much more like he says here. What if it's a life-changing bounty of $25,000? So now people go, okay, that's going to be my income for the next 6 months or whatever it would do. That kind of thing.
But they only get it if they actually
and that's the thing. If you only get it if you do it. Yeah. So let's put aside the bounties as such. Yeah. And let's move on to another kind of funding that we could do. So if someone does have $25,000, you said before putting a grant forwards. How about let's look at the Red Bull Extreme Sports way of doing things. Okay. Now they do sponsor, and own sports teams. Formula One. Yeah. They're there. They've got the World Championship tied up. Well, maybe not this year, but
and they're also now setting up a cycling team.
Yeah, no, they've got the cycling team. They've got the football team. So, but let's put aside the live sports kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. What they also do is they sponsor competitions. Yeah. So you get the Red Bull Hardline, you get the Red Bull, whatever.
All the Red Bull
things. You've got like the freestyle competitions with the Diabolos. You've got the freestyle with the B-boys. You've got all, they also organize Red Bull branded sporting events.
Yes, and they go to other events and showcase them there.
Yeah, you show, and then they have like the what is it, the soap car things, and what is it, the flugtag, where they you jump and you got to fly a plane and it crashes into the water and stuff. So, but putting aside all of that, so let's remove all of that from our consideration. Okay, live entertainment and sporting stuff. They also sponsor athletes to do like world firsts, and an athlete will say, I want to be the first person, or I want to break the unofficial ski jump world record, because I just saw this video about it. So there's a Japanese guy, Red Bull athlete, like, can we go to this hill in Iceland and jump on skis further than anyone's jumped on skis? Now, it wasn't the official competition record because it wasn't on an official ski slope, but they built it up to have somebody flying on skis further than anybody else has ever flown on skis. Yeah. Now, that's not a prize, but they do have a budget.
Yes.
A sponsorship budget. They know that the main sponsor is going to be Red Bull, but of course, I'm sure that they can bring in other sponsors. The ski equipment sponsors, the personal athlete sponsors,
the cameras,
the camera,
whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, like maybe GoPro will come on and sponsor it. I saw it on the Red Bull Hardline, again, a competition, but they also, I think, Insta 360 was like, the action camera kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you want to do something which nobody has ever done before, and what you're going to be doing is saying to Red Bull, like, you want to, you're going to earn money from this, or, just from the events and stuff, like, you increase the worth of Red Bull, that more people want to go to Red Bull events, want to take part in Red Bull activities, drink Red Bull, of course, sell that kind of stuff. Do the sport, like every one thing that they do increases their branding across the sport, and paying people to do world firsts, or funding them, giving them a budget to be able to do that, is a big part of it. And then those things get turned into viral clips, television shows, people, YouTube
creating
videos.
revenue in this kind
it's
of
creating
social
awareness,
media.
and it creates media that they can then feed into their television channels. So I was on a cruise ship. Often on cruise ships, there's the Red Bull channel, and I can just watch, documentaries about people doing cliff diving. I can see people doing mountain biking. I can see, all of these trips that people go on and things that they do.
Yes.
They have media teams and sponsorship
they're creating
teams.
the media.
So, okay, imagine this kind of stuff, but without having to earn your money back. So a trick bounty is just money spent, and we're not getting anything back from it. Say whoever's just putting up the money here doesn't care about promotion, doesn't care about that kind of stuff. I would think that it would be a really interesting thing for individual jugglers to be able to approach like a funding body, or like for a grant, to be able to say, I want to do a world's first. I will document it along the way. We can do those milestone kind of things. So like, if I do this, you give that amount of money, and then if I do the whole thing, I get the full bonus. And I'll record it along the way, and we can, you can have all the footage, you can do whatever you want with it, or if you don't care about that, you just want to see that it's been done or not. And then people will be able to either do that publicly, or wait until the whole project is finished and then share that they've done the world's longest ski jump, and then it becomes public. Because I guess that's probably the better way of doing it with a lot of these extreme sports, because if it doesn't work or it doesn't happen, you don't want to have promised something that's going to happen and it doesn't happen. So that would be one of my proposals of how to do this. So each individual technical juggler, you like, as the funding body, you say, these are the kind of things that we want to fund. Sort of like, first person to get 14 catches of 7 club back crosses. First person to reach 5 minutes with 7 clubs. All of these different kind of things. But that would then allow people to say, hey, here's a picture of a trick that somebody apparently did, probably with gimmicked props, and probably, the props were on strings when they took the photograph, but like, here's a classic trick that nobody has ever done since it was mentioned in a history book or in a newspaper report of a juggling thing. I reckon I could do that. So then people could do the most interesting tricks that they can think of, that they're motivated, but they're like, that's going to be a lot of hard work. But if I had $800 or if I had $2,000, it would be able to get me the training space. I'll be able to build the prop that I need. I'd be able to, organize some coach. Maybe it's a 2-person trick, and or 3-person. There's a group of people who would all want to do that. So that's what I would say. That would be my solution for jugglers to be able to work on the things that they want to do anyway. But to be able to support the juggling community, to increase the technical abilities of jugglers who aren't interested in performing, aren't interested in competing, so like for the prize money at the WJF, or for the non-prize money in the combat or whatever. So that's what I would say.
Yes. Also, this feels like, and I'm in this case, then my politics come back into this, and because I know Americans are very about politics and stuff. This case sounds like it's a foundation set up. You have a board of people who look at what people's ideas are, and then they pass on you get this for this period of time, you get this amount of funding to really dig into this
and if
trick.
you do the trick, and if you do get the world's first,
you get
the bonus.
And for me, this would feel very much like it's more a democratized kind of approach, rather than, hey, here is $25,000 that one person gets. because this kind of approach doesn't really lead anywhere. It doesn't progress anything. And with this kind of more like, okay, we have different kind of goals that you can achieve, or even the board gives out, okay, this year this and this and this and this trick is on the line, and then people can apply for this kind of stuff with ideas how they want to do it, what they need, and then you can also make sure that it does go to different, let's say, countries, different groups of people, different things, rather than literally just giving this big chunk of money to one out of these 5 people.
Yeah, but here's the thing: giving a big chunk of money to one person takes no administration,
yes,
and
of course.
No. Once you set the task, like no further judgment.
Yeah,
there's nothing else that you need to think about except tick box, no tick box, transfer money, and we're good.
And it can be done by this one person that wants this one thing and has this money to give.
Yeah,
it is like very specifically non-democratic, not a democratic process in its.
Well, I don't need it. I don't think there needs to be. I don't think democratic process needs to be, but more like more widely available.
Yes. Yes.
Because in the end, we are talking about a funding body which has money magically from somewhere. That again, no, this doesn't actually exist. But if we suddenly did get a Red Bull Juggling First Fund, this would be the kind of thing that you could do. Like, so if Red Bull randomly gets into juggling, of course it doesn't, because there's not a big enough audience outside of juggling for them to ever do that.
We do actually relatively often talk about the whole what juggling makes it so small, and
it's tiny. Juggling is so small.
Marketing is like tiny. What do you sell? Plastic, like,
well, there's nothing within juggling that costs money.
There's no apparel. Like, there's no things
specialized
around
equipment.
Specialized equipment
outside of the juggling props.
Yeah,
and the whole point of juggling props is that they're not wear items, as they say in tennis. You're always having to buy new balls because after 7 games,
strings,
the strings, the racket, all of these wear out.
Yeah.
And juggling props, like the juggling prop manufacturers, pride themselves on the fact that their juggling props don't wear out, and if they do, and they
repair it.
they can repair them.
Yeah.
So you don't want things to break. You want things to be able to be dropped on the floor 1,000 times. 2,000 times. This thing is going to drop on the floor 2,000 times.
Yeah.
And very little sports equipment is designed to be dropped on the floor 2,000 times and it still works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, juggling is very small. And that's the reason why, like I say, the WJF can keep working, because the money comes in from hotel room sales in Vegas, convention centers and hotels. You can make money you have to make money sideways from juggling.
Yeah.
You can't make money off of jugglers.
Yeah.
The money has to come from outside the juggling world.
Yeah.
And juggling isn't appealing enough outside the juggling world for it to be used as a marketing kind of thing.
And you can see that by when sometimes a juggling video, or a video where juggling is done in whatever form, is going viral, and the comments of people who have never seen that kind of stuff, or like, they are playing with toys, or what?
Thing is, they are playing with toys. We just recorded a whole video yesterday about hamster balls and things like that. I'm not even playing with human toys. I'm playing with pet toys.
Yeah.
So other alternative funding models for the juggling world. So again, we talked about to fund this, like the race, someone to get to a trick in a world record.
Yeah.
Another way that I was thinking about this is, instead of it being like one person gets the record, is literally anybody who does this gets some money.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the other way of doing it. So it's not like it's only open to a few people. It's open to anyone. But if you manage to do it, you can get some money.
Yeah, right.
And I think this would be cool if there was a way to pool the money.
Mm-hmm.
So the way it works in terms of, and again, talking about other funding models of how this works outside. So there was the Vesuvius. Am I getting the right volcano? Not which is the one that destroyed Pompeii and Herculaneum.
Yeah,
Pompeii. Either way, 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, Pompeii was destroyed.
Yeah.
And then there's a library in Herculaneum. Herculaneum? Am I getting the right? Anyway, so there's like thousands of scrolls buried underneath, and they pick them out, but you can't do anything because they're all charred.
Yes.
And they're like, well, now we've got scanning technology, so we can like do CAT scans or PET scan or whatever the scanning technology is. Yep. But then it's just like a massive weird data. So then, like, all right, it takes, what was it, $200 to work out like 2 centimeters squared or 1 centimeter squared of one of these things to work out, okay, that's that layer and it's going to do this. And they're looking for AI, machine learning, large language model kind of things to decode the Greek or Latin. Well, it would have been Greek back then, I guess. The letters that are in these charred baked scrolls that they can't open.
Yeah.
But the way that it works is that there won't be one person doing that job because it's actually too big of a job for one person to be able to do it.
In a lifetime.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you're going to spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and so it doesn't matter what you do. We're gonna pay you per centimeter, and it's like, well, that's not the way. But so what they did is that these consortiums got together and were like, all right, not one of us, but we're going to pool our resources here and between us, we're going to decode this, and then we're going to get the money. And instead of the money going to one person individually, it'll either be spread out along many people who worked on the coding, or it will just go into their fund, and then they can decide what they're going to spend the money for. Maybe they're going to spend the money on new computers, to, I don't know, whatever they're going to do with that money. Depending on how big the money is, do you spread it around? So this is like, people do play the lottery, and they have the lottery syndicates. So if one person in the lottery wins the money, the $1 million or the $20 million doesn't go to one person, it gets spread out for everyone in the syndicate. And everyone gets
it's like
500,000.
how El Gordo works, literally, like in Spain, whole villages get together and
pool the tickets, and then everyone in the village gets $20,000 if anybody wins. You know? So that's the other way. Unfortunately, with juggling is typically a solo activity, especially when it comes to technical stuff. Some people do technical juggling between 2 people, like you get the Junglissimo doing
the passing
the
stuff.
Passing. But really, it only gets up to that height, that level. So the way that I couldn't work out a way this would work completely, but I think it would be a fun way to say, okay, you can have syndicates or consortiums of numerous jugglers.
Right.
And you get to decide how, if one of you gets this, the syndicate gets the money, or the consortium gets the money, and then you get to decide where that money is spent.
Okay.
So if you actually say, first one to do this, and you're like, well, one of us 5 are going to do it. So instead of 5 of us all working and one of us getting all the money and 4 of us getting nothing, it's a way that the syndicate of the 5 club jugglers who are going to get the 7 or the 14 catches of 7 club back crosses, they decide among ourselves, this money is available, we'll all work on it, whoever gets it gets the kudos, gets the fist bumps between us, and we all get $500 because we're all really trying to work on it. Now, that takes a lot of trust because, again, it's such an individual thing. But how about this? Say, coming back to competition, say, nobody has ever... I'm trying to think of a different way this can work. I can't think of a way that can work. But I'm just trying to say is like there would be a way of doing this where you make the money available or money is available. And that one team can decide, we're going to go for all of this. You work on the 7 club back crosses. You work on the 7 club endurance. You work on the 7 club pirouettes. You work on the weird trick from 100 years ago, which has never been done on stage or, has never been done since that one person did it on stage. And between us, we can just keep ticking these off. And each time one of us does it and we're all supporting each other, we can do it that way.
And this idea I really like because, you know what? These kind of syndicate kind of... things, structures, kind of already exist in the juggling world. If you think about it, we separated away the performing aspect of it. But if you think about it, how many of these companies do you know? The circus companies, like the Gandinis, the Seven Fingers, Tall Tales.
They're performers,
whatever. Yes, they are performers, but they do have a pool of people. They do have a selection of, they're not just always the same 3 people. They have many different people.
And they have a B team and a C team.
They have a B team, and then they travel around in different places. And what just the idea that if they incorporate, each one of them incorporate that system into their kind of thing, into their company. And then they do have the people who go out perform, and in the best case scenario everybody does perform, and then they have like 1 or 2 or 3 people, however many people wanted to then dedicate some of that time to this kind of purpose.
So you're saying that the Gandinas would fund one person to do technical juggling, and then when they get the bounty, the money goes back to the whole of the Gandinis.
Into the group. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess this is similar to what these sponsorships work in extreme sports and stuff like that. Some people do the sport, but they are the racing. Again, coming back to biking, because that's what we watch sometime, There's some people who are professional athletes and are paid to take part in competitions or to race. And there are other people who have also got a Red Bull helmet, also sponsored by whatever. Yeah. They're not paid to compete in anywhere. They're paid to make video parts and do world's first.
Or they are literally there to do the showcases. Like they set up the ramps and then
but again, that's still performing. There's still
I know, but there's performing. That is, they're not racing downhill. And
I think we're mixing together things which...
I think that could be a thing because that already exists.
Because then it's tied to performing. And again, I think there's a way to do this which is for all the people who aren't interested in performing.
But they don't need to perform. If you have this one dedicated person that comes into this company and then they have in the syndicate and that is then their job as being part of the syndicate. They get the support system, but then they have the different job within it. And I think that is very attractive for multiple reasons, because then you can set up these different kind of companies. Companies and that and then they are under the umbrella of that. They don't have to fight for themselves and then just...
but I just don't see the connection between this though.
I do see that very clearly in front of me, and I think
because let me just say, I don't think, I'm not just saying this off the top of my head, I don't know if the Gandinis all are salaried, that they're just making money if they perform or not. I've got a feeling that when they go and perform, they're probably, invoicing for the time when they go and perform. I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't know what the funding is. If the Gandinas were set up that everyone is salaried, so they're being paid they're being paid monthly or yearly, and it doesn't matter how many times they perform or not. But I'm just saying, I've got a feeling that it's probably everyone who works for the Gandinis is freelance. Yes. And when they're working for them, they get paid for the gig that they're doing. And when they're not working for the Gandinis, they're not getting paid. So again, I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, that's probably
how it would work
works.
if people are salaried, but I'm not sure if they are or not. Honestly, I've never asked about how the Gandinis are. I've never really thought about it. I just assume that everyone is a freelance and people are being paid as it goes. Maybe there's a core group of people who are salaried, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So, which brings me to one final thing, which is actually kind of similar to this, which is alternative funding for technical juggling.
Right.
Is that kind of thing. But what happens in militaries is that there's an army and people will be in the army and they have to do the basic, they do the basic training and they do the basic duties and they're on the books. Yeah. But then they are... they take part in boxing competitions or sporting competitions, and they actually have sporting.
This is how the German athletic organization works. Yeah? Most of professional German athletes are actually soldiers in the army.
Yeah, that's like technically.
Yeah. That's how they are literally employed, and then they, instead of going and doing the whatever, they are specializing in their one specific sports, and that is athletes.
They do the ski jumping or the biathlon or whatever? Yeah.
Many of them are. I don't know numbers. Okay. But that is definitely a way of doing
this is not so much funding. It's more about, like you were saying before, about the support system around someone. So the juggler can just concentrate on juggling, and they can just concentrate on juggling training, and they don't have to concentrate on accommodation, training facilities, all this other kind of stuff, because they can go along in the slipstream of an already existing national body.
Yes.
And if somebody is wanting to fund someone, funding someone, tying that funding to someone who's already, has already got the I'm not saying the military is a utopian, but it's sort of like the support which you would need from basic universal income, and everyone gets support and everyone gets meals and everyone gets somewhere to live, all the stuff that comes along with joining up in the army, all that stuff that's provided for there, your health insurance, your long-term benefits and stuff. Yeah. If all of that's sorted, that would then take less money. I just wanted to throw that out there because I know that Eva, again, it's about performing, but Eva Tronstedt? Is her name? Yeah. I can never remember people's second name.
Yeah.
yes, he worked for a good few years doing military displays and rifle things where you swing the right, and everyone does it all. He goes to Edinburgh and walks around. That's what they always do in Norway. Or the Norwegian guards are always in Edinburgh for the tattoo and things. So.
Yeah. No, there's several, like even like in the German army, there's a music section. So you have an orchestra. So you're working as a musician. But you're employed by the army. Yeah. What I think comes back to, and I think this is really interesting, what we are all talking about here now is coming from the point of view of literally middle-aged, part self-employed, part not self-employed, experienced artists who, in the reality of life, know that things in life is being paid monthly. Sure, as good as this sounds, this kind of bounty, like with a big...
It's for young people.
Is only and purely for the certain age type and this particular era in your life. Because as soon as you get a little bit older than that, your life will shift towards, and this is reality, this is just the capitalistic thing, how it is. You have to pay rent, you have to pay your monthly subscriptions,
but all of these people. So here's the thing, like if you look at the people who are currently the top jugglers, and you can see it happening that while people are young and students, they have a lot of time, and they're all, the technical stuff goes up and up and up. And then they leave university and they get a real job, and suddenly they're Alex Barroning over and working for wherever. And they work for Silicon Valley because they're all clever and intelligent, and they stop working on the juggling, and you don't see them again.
Yes,
not always, but that's the kind of thing that happens. Or they're juggling and they go into juggling training and they work in a show.
Yes,
and then suddenly they've got they're performing jugglers and they can't work on the DB97531 anymore.
And then they end up in the jobs that literally can regularly provide you with money.
So the only way for these things to work, as you say, is to be able to support somebody while they're a student in university. You entice them into that job. Then you've got to support them all the way through until their middle age, where they would normally be giving up being, performers and stuff.
Threshold.
And everyone who normally gives up being a juggler performer, they all, they've all got some savings and they've been performing a long time, but they all become, like I say, physical therapists, or they become computer programmers. You retire into the thing that you did at university before you became a juggler. And you do that. And if you don't have those skills and you're dedicating your life to technical juggling, there has to be that long-term support of you get to 38 years old. I was just saying this before with these, 39? Mark Cavendish, who's just been knighted, and it's like he's won more stages than anybody except one person at the Tour de France, and he's 39 years old. And I'm like, that's it, last gasp of his career, 39. And it's great if you're a multi-million dollar, pound, whatever athlete.
At that point, the amount of money that would have to, and here he says life-changing, 25,000, what did he say? $25,000?
Well, he says the small amounts are non-life-changing sums. But $25,000 for me would be life-changing in some way.
For 1 year, maybe?
Yeah, but I'd be like, oh, great, I'll put that towards a car, and that will go to buy half of a car. Like an electric car these days is like about that much. So I'd be like, it's not life-changing. No. It's like our car is 10 years old this year. Maybe we want a new car. So $25,000 for a middle-aged person isn't life-changing amount.
Sorry to say that, but that's then the reality of things. So, and then if you think of life-changing, that would literally have to be in the millions.
Well, it would have to be able to support someone's life. Through from being a young person to them being middle-aged, the whole and again, this is what happens with these these Red Bull athletes. People sign up. It's not a 1-year contract. They're like, all right, 5 years, and if I get in, or 10 years, and if I get injured, you keep paying me even though I'm not racing, or I'm not doing it, or I'm not being here, or doing whatever.
Because everything else is very unhealthy.
It's not about how much money you get paid for a single thing. It's about the support around it, you know, and that all Red Bull athletes, they all have athlete training centers and rehabilitation centers, and all these extreme athletes can go and get the best medical care in Austria or whatever it is.
Because you don't want a person with literally banging their head and then having concussion and then trying to get back into it as quickly as possible. No, that's really not sustainable for either side. So you want to give them the support system to say, okay, you recover,
Yeah.
And then you can go for it again.
Yeah.
Because everything else is destroying people. And that's what people are doing.
So let's bring this all the way back down to the smallest possible, like the most realistic kind of thing, which isn't that everyone has to join the army or join up the Red Bull, become a Red Bull athlete.
Yeah.
And so what I think, again, we're bringing it all the way down, is that it's for young people to give them a fun bonus.
Yeah.
As little amount of administration.
Yes.
And if they want to do any more administration, then it's up to the people. So if they want to have a syndicate, but that's like an informal thing, like these lotteries are informal. Well, not informal, you know what I mean? Like they can decide to do that.
Yes.
So I would suggest put out a few bounties, but then allow people to submit a technical juggling trick that they want to work on.
Yeah.
Give them milestone rewards along the way. So $500 for every extra catch, or the if you're going to go to 5 minutes of 7 clubs, give them $1,000 for every minute that they go, and if they get there, then you can give them the full amount. But let people apply for what they want to do, what they want to concentrate on, with some guidelines of the kind of things that you're looking for. And that means one person can dedicate themselves to doing a trick, and nobody else feels bad about it, that other people are better than them, because they can also say, well, I don't want to go towards 5 clubs, or 3 hours of 5 clubs, or 5 minutes of 7 clubs. I want to go in this different direction. I want to do this crazy side swap that nobody's ever done before with clubs, or I want to do 10 clubs, whatever it's going to be. And you can say, right, if you do that, milestones along the way, good for that kind of stuff. And I think that would help. And also I think it would help because then people could spend that money on, like I say, the equipment. So if they say, look, I want to do this, but for that, I need a set of, clubs which have got carbon fiber and printed in this way, and we've got to work on the aerodynamics, and there has to be some chirality, because in my right hand, I want the clubs to be this shape, and in my left hand, I want them to be that shape, and that's going to cost quite a bit of money. That's going to cost a few $1,000s to put this together. So give me the money for that, and then I'll work on this trick, and then when I get the trick, you can give me a few $1,000s, but it's going to cost, to me to work on that.
And what that brings along with it is progress in things that not only then is relevant to that person, but maybe then to others as well. Because that's always what you want to look out for with these kind of one specific in giving money.
So like, what does that give back to society?
What does it give back to then the other jugglers? And that would then help that person. They would then achieve their goal. And on the way, they also come up with something that is beneficial to other people. And one final thing I would think would be interesting in this is actually if you have, say, it's not just, you have all these world's firsts, but what is it a world's first? Who is it a world's first for? I saw this thing before, these people doing this mountain bike stuff, and I was like, those tricks are great, but I've seen most of those tricks before, but just done by BMX riders 10 years ago. So people are like, first ever quad backflip, asterisk, on a mountain bike, and I was like, didn't I remember? And I looked up, and it was like literally 2015. Someone, on a BMX. Nitro Circus or whatever. Travis Pastrana, his crew over there. They're always doing these world firsts, and they have like a show about it and media stuff as well. But it's like, all right, so you flipped a bike 4 times, great, and your one happened to be a bike with flat handlebars and suspensions rather than small wheels and raised handlebars. And you're like, was that a world's first? So that's the kind of thing that I like. If you submit it, sort of like, is this a world's first? Like, did you land it in this with mountain bikes? Oh, you landed it on a hard ramp or a soft ramp or an airbag. People beforehand can decide if that's good. Because if you say, juggle 7 clubs for 5 minutes. Off the top of my head, I could think of a few ways to do that. How big is a club, right? If I make a club really small, and then I put each club inside a ball and put some padding around it. You put a club inside a ball?
Yeah, if it's small enough. Like, these balls here, I could juggle 7 of those, if you know what I mean. And then all you need to do is juggle 7 balls for 5 minutes, but the clubs are inside the balls, like stuck in. But you understand what I mean? If this is...
People can get very creative.
If this is a life-changing sum of money, it would totally be worth it for me to break the rules, or to get around the rules, and
to wiggle a bit,
to get a wiggle room in there, it would be worth it. $25,000, I could pay someone a good amount of money to make like a CGI deepfake version of me doing a difficult trick. You would have to be really rigorous. Once the money and prestige gets up high enough, people will cheat.
Oh yeah. That was kind of in my head. That was in my head all the way through as well.
So if it all starts with a 1-to-1 thing of saying, here's like there is a trick bounty. You decide what you want to work on, and this is available for anyone. Oh, and also you could do it as well with different different genders. So like the first woman to do something, or the first person from from a different country. Like you say, spread the money out. Sort of like I want to be the first person from. I don't know. I can't even think of a good example here. Yeah, like the first person. So it kind of establishes technical juggling in different places. Like the first person from sub-Saharan Africa or from the whole of Africa to be able to do this one thing, and that means for that is a way easier, life-changing sum of money to give to people to like kickstart technical juggling in some underdeveloped or less developed places, and I say less developed in terms of juggling, the juggling scene, rather than just financially
and that literally then would be life changing.
Yeah, of course.
Because I think these kind of things you need to spread your tiny mind a little bit further than just there's this 5 white American guys that I want to give $25 to.
That's the thing about the WGF. It's like the WGF is putting up $13,000 of prizes, and I can already tell you who's winning. Like there's only like 4 people in the world who are good enough at that, and one guy is from America. He doesn't need the money. One guy's from like Norway, probably doesn't need the money. You know, like it's that kind of thing. Like where the money should be going to. Yeah. Like someone who is studying computer science in Japan, there's not that much money that's life changing to them. You got to go a long way. Yeah. But someone who's sort of like, all right, you got to do this weird trick, and you're going to be the first person from the whole of
Ghana.
I don't know what
Ghana.
Oh, Ghana. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The first person to do it. That's a lot easier way of accelerating technical juggling around the world, because a lot of people would be able to do something if they had the support to be able to do it. Yeah. And the guys who are currently doing 7 club back crosses, like what's the guy who did the big tricks only thing? I can't remember the name now.
Big tricks only thing? I don't know what you're talking about.
Big tricks only juggling. Who is it? Jack Danger.
Oh, right.
Like he had the 7 club back crosses record at one point.
Right.
Because everyone had only ever done 7 catches, and he did 8 catches.
Yay.
And you're like, great, well done. Jack Danger doesn't need 2,500. No offense I honestly don't know anything about him. But I don't think he's a person who he's already established in a job.
And when you come up with these kind of bounty ideas, you really need to think further than just, it's a good idea to give out money for one person to achieve this trick. I think these are really important considerations, and I don't really want to be like the reality check here, but that's part of the reality here.
Yeah, the reality is that life-changing amount of money is difficult, and what it needs to be is you're supporting someone throughout the next 10 years of their career.
Yes.
And that's not always realistic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think we've wrapped up there. There's about an hour worth of podcast. I think that's good.
Okay.
The next thing that our Patreon supporters will get is a video about me doing the Anthony Gatto balance pole 5 ring and hamster ball trick.
An update on that one.
Update on that. Yes. Finally, after not giving any updates and performing it for 2 years, I was like, I really want to get to it. And also somebody emailed me in like February and saying, could you show me the design of the balance pole? And I'm really like, I'm going to email that guy back when I've done this video and showing him the design of the pole.
Here you go.
And I didn't think it would be June. I didn't think it was going to be like 4 or 5 months later before I can email this guy. It's actually been sitting there. Check it out. Like this email here.
Is it at the bottom?
Juggling pole. Vincent Geruntho.
Yes.
Hi, Luke. I just wanted to ask you a question about the pole you use for head balancing, where you throw the rings onto the hook. I understand it's made of aluminium. Any vids or pics about the design would be awesome if it's not too much trouble. February 1st. He sent me that email. And I've been like, I'm going to get to this. I just want to perform it well, and that's what we did the video yesterday. I finally performed it in a way which I'm like happy to talk about. I'm like, I think I've cracked it. I think the trick's ready. It's all good. So,
That's coming up.
Coming up when I edit it, and I'll upload it next week.
All right.
But this podcast will go up tomorrow, probably. People don't know that. They're just listening to it now. But either way, I'll put the podcast up later.
That's nice.
All right, that's it for much. Thank you again to all our Patreon supporters. We'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.